with a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
And welcome back to the New York Jets Atlantic Flight podcast. With all this talk about the draft, I think everyone's getting pretty sick of it. I know I am. I think we've just been around the block time and time again. Andy's with us as well. And I know that Andy's absolutely sick to death of the whole thing. And why do we have this big, huge gap after the combine? And then we've got this gap of nothingness, a great big void before we have the draft. Andy, can you answer that?
I think it's just to see if we can all take it, Gus. To be honest, I think it's like a stress test for NFL fans everywhere. And I, for one, am here for it and keen to discuss why I think Carson Beck is QB1 in this draft. Absolutely joking. Absolutely not. It needs to get here fast. I'm sick of it, Gus. And keen to talk about anything but this draft class.
I think Ty Simpson should be picked too, but hey, you know, I think we've all done this before, haven't we? So honestly, we've just been around. Everyone is just going over and over the same old. So at pick 2, who knows what's going to be? As I say, right from the get-go on this year's draft, I have been in a reasonably good place of being quite happy with a number of picks at number 2. So I'm going to be very, very difficult to disappoint on draft night. So I'm quite happy to be in that headspace because if you're locked in particularly on one player, I know it's so difficult to see anything else. So what we're going to do today is we're going to review last year's draft class. You could say, well, you know, they've only played a year. Is it right to try and grade players? Well, I think we've got a reasonable idea of who's been good, who hasn't been good. And I think overall, I think it's fair to say, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, that it was a fairly good draft, wasn't it? Darren Mougey, his first draft. How would you rate his first draft?
I think that it's looking pretty good, to be honest. Maybe it's just because I've lived through years and years of Joe Douglas's drafting and the guys who came before him. That I'm pleasantly surprised. It's hard to be upset with some of the picks, and I think there's one or two that we're going to talk about that were head scratches at the time and remain head scratches now. But I think there's enough to be kind of excited about there to have a little bit of faith in him going into the next draft, because it's hard sometimes to have realistic expectations of what teams are going to get out of the draft, because the truth is, aside from certain drafts, like I forget which Saints draft class it was that was just absolute all time where they got starters at nearly every single pick, but it's not how the draft works. You hit on some of the picks, you miss on the others. And I think if you come out of a draft class with 3 starters and a couple of depth players, I think that's an incredible draft. Personally, I think looking back at draft history, that's a really good draft for a GM. Hitting on every pick is a completely unrealistic expectation. So I think when we talk about these guys, I think we'll feel maybe a bit better than we might have done beforehand.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. If you can actually get 2 starters and 2 backups, like, you know, week in, week out, viable backups, I think you're doing really, really well. I think it's Harry Roseman said something along those same lines as well. So, and Harry Roseman's record speaks for itself.
Well, I was about to say he's just a smug git. Every single draft works out for him, so he can say whatever he wants.
The funny thing is, I think there was a trade that was being mooted by the Eagles. I'm trying to remember which player it was, and Harry Roseman was trying to fleece the other team. And I put on Twitter, Harry Roseman's trying to do a Darren Mougey, completely flipping the script. Because I think Darren Mougey this year in the off season for trades and what have you, I think he's been outstanding compared to everybody else. But even without comparing, I think he's just been outstanding and what he's done. And as I say, last year, the 2025 draft, I called it meat and potatoes because it did focus on toughness and the trenches. Even though we struggled to a 3-14 record, I think the rookie class has emerged as a significant silver lining, with several players, I think, establishing themselves along long-term cornerstones.
Yeah, yeah, and I think should we just get straight into it? Should we just talk about
Yeah,
are we going to start with round one?
yeah. Let's go from, because we don't want to do that old thing of we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Let's just start at the top, because let's face it, when we get to the bottom, we're not going to be talking that much about what happened at the bottom end. Obviously, round one, pick 7, consensus. Got told today that consensus is normally wrong. Well, this consensus was pretty much right, except there was a group of fans that wanted another tight end at 7. But it was the offensive tackle out of Missouri, Armand Membo. Um, you can't grade Armand Membo anything other than A or A something. How would you grade Armand Membo for the season that he's just had?
Oh, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I think it's great to see him hit so early as well. I think for most people who knew about Membu going into the draft, I think we found it almost difficult, I think, to give Mougey any credit for taking Membu because it was such a no-brainer sort of pick that kind of fell into his lap. But I think he does deserve a little bit of credit for taking the obvious pick and not trying to be too clever, which I think is something that GMs occasionally can fall into in the draft. And I think he just did the obvious thing. He did the easy thing and took the best player available to him. And I think it's paid off because the Jets have now got a bookend pair of young tackles. Membu's going into his second season. Left side's going into his third season now, and both looking pretty good. So I think Membu, we were talking before offline, looking at the stats for him and trying to pick apart where he's done well and where he needs some improvement. I think the stat that stood out to us when we were having a chat about it was the fact that he's allowed less than 2 pressures per game in his first season, which is absolutely incredible work.
It's absolutely outstanding. So he's allowed 1.5 sacks in playing 99% of offensive snaps. I think it was PFF has ranked him also a top 10 right tackle in the NFL during his rookie campaign. That isn't all rookie, that's all right tackles. So to be able to just hit the ground running like that is just incredible. And on the other side, obviously, the previous year we took Fashioner as well. So we've got these bookend tackles. They're still so young as well. You know, this is the stuff that we've been hoping for as Jets fans year after year to get these tackles right. And we've got it. We've got the hard parts of that offensive line done. I still think at some point in this 2026 draft, we will draft at some point interior O-line. And my preference is actually, instead of taking a guard, I would actually take another center, because I think you all of a sudden make 2 players out of the one, because you then can play Myers or Tippmann. Well, Tippmann's solidified that right guard position, hasn't he? But you can kick out Myers to be the backup center, or you can play him as a backup guard as well. But what do you think? Do you think that's I'm diversifying a little bit here on what we're talking about, because we are talking O-line? But do you think that could be an option this year?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of guys, and I know you've talked about it before. This desire to not have that gigantic gap between pick 44, and then what's our next pick after that?
103.
103. Yeah,
It's huge.
there's so many guys in there who would be a good fit for exactly what you're talking about. We don't have to take a guy at 16 or 33 to come in and do that role. There's loads of guys like Keelan Ridge from Georgia Tech, ones who can come be that kind of developmental centre guard prospect who I think will really solidify this line. I mean, personally, how I would like that flexibility, because I still question whether or not Tippmann is better to long term than he is at guard. But I'd like to have the option to move things around rather than paint ourselves into a corner with it. But one thing that we can agree on 100% is that we've got our right tackles sorted for the future.
Yeah, it's quite funny actually, because when you look at our interior O-line, nearly all of them can play centre, which is pretty special, because I know that there are teams that they are pretty much interior, either they're left guard, right guard, but not all of them can play centre, and it is such a difficult position to play, to snap that ball and get hands and movement all at the same time. And when you've got someone like Tavondre Sweat opposite you, 360 pounds of beef coming at you, you got to move really, really quickly to drop that anchor and not get pushed back. So it is such a difficult position to play. And if we are led to believe what's going to happen either this year's draft or next year's draft, we are going to be looking for our franchise quarterback. And it's beneficial to get the O-line together as soon as you can, be it taking half a season, a whole season, for them to be able to mesh and play as a unit, because it is one of those parts of the game, more so than any other, I think, in football, that they do have to play as a complete unit. And that old adage, you're as strong as your weakest link, that is so true when it comes to the offensive line.
Yeah, and what's good is that for at least 4 of these guys, this is going to be the second year together. And we saw them play really well in their first year, particularly because obviously in training camp, what we ended up with wasn't the plan from the start. So to see them gel so well and play so well together in that first year was really good. And you want them to have that consistency and that, like you say, that sort of cohesion going into the second year as well. And you've just reminded me of what's going to happen over the summer as well, because there's kind of some traditions for like the coverage of the NFL. One is this kind of dead month between the end of free agency and the combine and the draft, where the coverage goes nuts with all this nonsense we're hearing at the moment. The same thing happens with training camp coverage as well, with the Jets, with the jet beat. And they're going to be going up against Tavondre Sweat, presumably someone that we draft, Enagbare Osai. And I can just see the coverage coming out now from like Connor Hughes and people of Sweat just destroying our interior offensive line as they learn to deal with that kind of power and strength in front of them. So yeah, that's going to be both fascinating and frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, blowing up plays, for crying out loud. Just let us get something off. We need to get something moving on. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I can see that happening as well. So overall, PFF gave Armand Membo a grade of 72.7. As I say, he was ranked in the top 10 of all right tackles. He played all 17 games, 1,045 snaps, officially allowed 8 sacks allowed and 11 penalties. But as we discussed, as you said offline, only 1.5 of those were actually attributed to him giving them up. The other 6.5, 7.5 were from Justin Fields or who was the other guy we just had, the rookie quarterback? Just lost. Brady Cook, scrambling and being tackled behind the line of scrimmage. There's not a lot you can do about that. Whether that's on the offensive line or not is neither here nor there. But we know the kind of quarterback play that we've had. And when you consider the offensive line that's been in front of them, the quarterback play really has been inexcusable. They've had all the time in the world to be able to pass the ball most of the time. So not putting any of that on the offensive line for last year. So overall, 72.7 grade. How would you grade him? A, B, C, D?
Membo's an A for me, easy.
A plus?
Oh, I'm not going that far. I'm a harsh grader, Gus.
Well, we'll say it's an A. He's definitely an A. Let's move on to the next player. For what he was, I thought he should have had a better season, and we know the reason why he didn't have a good season. So, round 2, pick 42, tight end out of Louisiana State University, Mason Taylor. Famously, the son of Jason Taylor, who used to be a long-term Dolphin, number 99, Hall of Famer. He set LSU records for receptions by a tight end, and I believe he set records for the Jets as a tight end as well. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Oh, I'm not sure. That I hadn't seen
I
that.
think he is the leading reception tight end. This is something that you can Google at the end of this. So he had 13 games. He didn't finish the season. So all the games he played and he started, he had 44 receptions, 369 yards, one touchdown, which is an average of 8.4 and a PFF grade of 59.6. It was disappointing that he didn't get more touches at the end, but it was quite funny though. Not deviating too far away, but the other tight end on the team, so tight end two as he would have been, Jeremy Ruckert, he also started coming into the game a little bit more as well. So these two tight end sets that we were using, which Frank Reich will do a lot this next season, it's going to be interesting. So someone like Sadiq, there is a chance we could end up with Sadiq if all the receivers are off the board. Why not? Play him out in the Y. Who knows? He could do something for us. And like I said, if you've got someone like Sadiq, Mason Taylor, Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Breece Hall, that's a lot of weapons. So I think things are going to look good. But as things stand now, we're talking about Mason Taylor. Were you impressed with how Mason Taylor progressed through the year?
Yeah, I was. It's sort of a weird situation to be in with Taylor, in that I think we were all very high on Engstrand coming into the year and excited about what he was potentially going to do with the tight end position, and then through probably no fault of his own. I mean, I know the Engstrand discussion's a bit of a different one, but I think the quarterback play we had all year kind of makes evaluation of our offense a little bit difficult, because I think Taylor looked good. He looked like he was developing in the right way and playing the way that he needed to play in his first year. But then did we genuinely see everything that we could have gotten out of him? I know we saw Ruckert kind of take a step, which obviously surprised all of us. I don't think any of us were particularly high on Ruckert going into the season, but Taylor maybe being more of the receiving tight end so much more than Ruckert. I think maybe we wanted a bit more. It helps if the quarterback can see open receivers and pass the ball. So Taylor is someone that I'm quite excited to see year two in this kind of Frank Reich offense with, Gino will be, if nothing else, he'll be competent, and we should see what we can get out of Taylor without maybe him exploding. He'll look good, I think. I've got no concerns about him. What did you think of Taylor? Because I know you're hoping to see a little bit more usage out of Beck, probably more so
Yeah.
than Taylor for your own kind of purposes. But
I'm a fan of fullbacks, and so obviously Andrew Beck, who you're referring to there, he's listed as a fullback, but he's pretty much tight end as well. We talked about this with Connie last week. Every time he gets involved, he seems to make things happen. It's a bit like when Max Mitchell lines up in that big of extra offensive lineman reporting in. He's the extra O lineman. Every time he came in, something happens, and then you don't see them for like 3 or 4 series, and then they bring them out again, and the same thing happens. Something happens good. So, like, why do you not keep playing them more? And when you're using something that works, and Mason Taylor, I thought was a good example of that. The amount of games that Mason Taylor just wasn't involved in the game, but then as soon as you did involve him in the game, it started opening things up, particularly over the middle. He seems to be quite fit. He's a big guy. He's not afraid to go and get that ball. He's not afraid of contact. And once he's got that ball in his hands, he can really motor. He is explosive when he's got the ball in his hands. I would grade Taylor, not an A, but close. I would grade Taylor B plus. I would have given him an A if we'd seen more. But as you've just touched on, the quarterback play that we had last year, you know, going through your first read, he's not open, right, I'm going to take off and run with it. It's just like, well, there's a guy open. And Mason Taylor, like a few other receivers last year, was open. So it's hard to make that decision on how good he was. But when you look at the All-22, he was where he should have been in on plays. And it was just poor quarterback play that he didn't get the ball. So I would grade him B plus. What would you grade him?
yeah, I'd be happy with a B for Taylor. I think he didn't do anything wrong. Like I say, he's more, given the fact he was taken in the second round, he was a bit more developmental than maybe Membu was. He did well from a contested catch point of view as well. I thought he was pretty solid. Couple of drops, but mostly towards the end of the year. He had two the final game he played. Did he end the season injured? I think he did.
Missed, I think it was the last 4 games. I think he missed.
Yeah, there were a couple of these guys who missed a couple of games at the end of the year. But yeah, I thought he played well. And I'm just, the thing with Taylor is I'm excited to see him in year 2 because I think we have a really decent tight end on the roster. Even if he never becomes that kind of difference maker, I think he's going to be a solid receiving tight end.
Yeah, I think he's going to be up there with the likes, when he's finished his playing career, I think he's going to be up there with the likes of Johnny Mitchell, who back in the day, he was a really great tight end. I love watching him. He's got it all. A lot of people seem to think that he's not a very good blocker either. I think he doesn't get enough credit for his blocking. It needs work. I'll give you that. Steve Hayden, I think, will probably take him under his wing, the O-line coach. He did brilliantly with our getting back to the O-line again. He did brilliantly, and I'm so glad that he was still part of this coaching staff. As we know, we lost, 7 or 8 coaches this year, but Steve Hayden wasn't one of them. So glad he's still on as well. But I really like Mason Taylor. Interested to see if we do add somebody else. Jelani Woods has just re-signed as well. So we've got 3 tight ends, at least 3 tight ends on roster now. So obviously we extended Jeremy Ruckert last year. So we've got 3. So there's some stability. When we also extended Andrew Beck as well. So technically we've got 4 tight ends on roster. But yeah, I'm happy with Mason Taylor. I'm with you as well. I think in the second year, I'm going to be very interested to see what he can do. As you've pointed out, we've got Frank Wright, we've got Geno Smith comes in. Geno likes to hit the tight ends and especially downfield as well. So I'm reasonably confident that we've already got a better offense than we had last year just by the pieces and the coaches that we've got in. I think this is going to be a really good move. I'm not sure we would take a tight end this year. Do you think we might take another tight end in the draft?
It's an interesting one. As someone who loved Jelani Woods in that draft he was in, I will never give up my draft takes, as everyone should. You should always stick to them. You're never wrong. You're just early. I do think we'll take a tight end at some point because I don't think we're done with this room, because I think Frank Reich will probably want to go with some of what's working well in the NFL. I don't think he'll be stubborn and play sort of prehistoric football like some of our coordinators have done. I think he'll be happy to kind of move with the meta, so to speak, of what guys are doing in 12 and 13 personnel. So I do think I don't think we'll add someone really early like Sadiq. We're obviously going to draft Tanner Arkin with one of the 7th round
right
picks, because of course we will, because we have to. It's been ordained. Yeah, I can see maybe one of those late 4th or the 5th round pick that we got be a tight end, because it's quite a deep class. It's not maybe big at the top, but I do think it's quite deep.
Do you think it kind of plays into our weaknesses, this draft?
Well, apart from the biggest weakness that we have at quarterback, I do. Sure. I think we need linebacker, we need a wide receiver too. So I do think it's a good draft for us.
This is segueing nicely into the next pick. So the next pick is, we had a round 3. We haven't got a round 3 pick this year. It really bothers me that we haven't got a round 3 pick this year. 44 to 103. That's a hell of a drop off. Keep saying it, but I'm hoping that come the 3rd round, we will have a 3rd round pick somehow. But anyway, in 2025, pick 73 in the 3rd round, somebody dropped all the way from the 2nd. They was meant to have gone into the latter stage of the 2nd round. He didn't. He dropped into the 3rd, and I think this is worth keeping an eye on. I could see this being a modus operandi of Darren Mougey of when a player falls. So we didn't particularly need cornerback at that particular time. because we had Sauce and we had Brandon Stevens. So we traded for Brandon Stevens, and he got was it a 3-year contract. So at that point we actually had 2 starting corners. So corner wasn't a need, but a quality corner fell in Azariah Thomas, Florida State, long physical press corner, viewed as a high value 2-day steal. But there he was in the third, and we went and took him. What were your thoughts on Azariah Thomas this year?
Well, I mean, when we initially drafted him, I hated it. Maybe not because of the player. I liked the player. I didn't really know a lot about him, to be honest, at the time, because I didn't think we were going to draft corner, so I didn't focus on it much.
Sorry there, just had a little break in the interwebs. Andrew, I just lost you there for about 2 or 3 seconds.
That's fine. I was just complaining about stuff, as I'm wont to do. I was just saying, I wasn't a huge fan of the pick when we did it, because I didn't think we needed corner, and I think it pushed some needs further down.
Agreed.
Our draft
Yeah.
needed to be. But I think hindsight's great, but I think it gave us the flexibility to be able to trade Sauce and get the haul that we did for it, and which probably we wouldn't have been able to do without having AZ. And I think from his point of view, he wasn't amazing. Well, at least not according to PFF, he wasn't. Anyway, they graded him quite harshly overall. He dropped well below the average to about a 55 overall grade, mainly based on his coverage and his run defense. For a rookie corner playing in let's face it, a bad defense, I didn't think he played terribly. There were definitely enough flashes to kind of give you hope that he can develop into a starting corner in Glenn's in his offense and his defense. What did you think when you watched him?
The one thing I do like in corners is corners that can play press coverage. So if you don't know what press coverage is, it's where they will jam a receiver on the line, or they'll just hurry him within that 5 yards, and then please take your hands off them. Although apparently referees have a little mental clock, a little timer in their clock, and they go 1, 2, 3, release. So, but yeah, I like physical press corners like AZ, and he's big as well. There was a period in the NFL where he had all these huge wide receivers going up against short cornerbacks. Revis wasn't that big, but Revis was pretty special. And it's always puzzled me why you would plant small corners against big, tall wide receivers. So AZ has that length. And it's quite odd, because Aaron Glenn, when he played, he was a little shorty. It was like 5'9", I think, when he was playing. So you've got AZ that's like 6'2", and Glenn likes the taller corners, which is kind of odd. A bit like yourself, I think most of Jet Nation, when that pick was made, was like, huh? Why? And it's exactly what you said. At that point, I would have preferred to have taken a wide receiver, which we desperately need, and we still desperately need. So to take at that point, I viewed it as a luxury pick, because we still, as I say, we still had Sauce Gardner, we had Brandon Stevens, but early on, trying to remember how many games he's played. He has played in 12 games. He's only played in 12 games, because he's, again, another one that got hurt. And of those 12, he has started 5. He finished with 22 combined tackles, 7 pass deflections, telling 0 interceptions. But I think that's pretty across the board, isn't it? We were awful, our defense. I think there was a problem with the system as well, because originally it started off with Steve Wilkes' system. It wasn't working, and I think Aaron Glenn intervened at some point and started trying to make adjustments. I don't think that Glenn was trying to put his own defense in, but I think he was trying to make adjustments. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And I think the whole thing just got lost in translation, and we saw this horrible mess. So one week, the defense, it looked quite good. And then the following week, it just looked flipping awful. It's just like, would the real defense stand up? Do you remember? It was like one week the offense would play well and the defense would play badly. And then the following week, the defense would play well and the offense would play badly. It's like, can you just both play well on the same day? So, yeah, AZ at that point, I viewed him as a luxury. He's hard to grade. I would have graded if he'd played a few more games. I would have probably graded him a little bit higher. I would grade him C plus simply because we didn't see too much of him. But what he did do, he did fairly well, and I see a lot of potential in him. And a bit like Taylor, I'm looking forward to seeing him in this season.
Yeah, it's going to end up a bit of a boring listen to this, because if we don't start disagreeing on something at some point. I think, yeah, like you, it's unfair to really criticise him too much for not having any interceptions when none of the team had an interception. I think he played well. He had a couple of knocks during the season as well, didn't he? He missed a couple of games at some point. And he was playing in quite a poor defense. I think in terms of like a developmental cornerback coming in, I'm quite happy that he's going to start next year. I think we will draft a corner at some point, just because you need to kind of see if Stevens has the same sort of year in the second year in the slightly better defense. AZ will get an opportunity as well, but I think at some point you are going to let one of them's going to be pushed out, either Stevens from a contract point of view or AZ because he doesn't develop. So I think we will draft someone. But yeah, I think a C for Azariah Thomas, just because expectations for him were kind of probably that he was going to struggle a little bit in his first year, but then develop. So we'll see where he is after the second year.
I think it's going to be interesting as well. I just want to bring this up because obviously we traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. Minkah Fitzpatrick, I mean, in his press conference, he was alluding to the fact that he was probably going to get played more up towards the box, which I don't think, we've discussed this before, I don't think that is his best position. Obviously, he's getting on a little bit, and to play the position that he's traditionally associated, which is that deep safety, you need to be quite quick. And obviously, he's getting on in years now, so it's going to be interesting to see how they utilise him. But the point I'm going to try and make here is that AZ Thomas, he was quite often used as a deep rotation cornerback, and when he was targeted, PFF, he's got a PFF rating here of 83.9 passer rating when he was actually targeted. So if you've got someone back there, that a corner that can get deep as well, Minkah Fitzpatrick could still play that deep role, because you're still going to have the two of them playing together as a team, which is what deep safety is all about. Quite often you are sometimes left on an island, but if you're playing that deep zone as well, the handoff between Thomas and Fitzpatrick could work really, really well. So I'm quite interested to see how those two would actually play together. And do I think that we're going to have 0 interceptions next year? Not a chance.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like you, I was really confused by Fitzpatrick's comments. I think for me, because safety can be such a between the ears position most of the time, I think someone like Minkah, who's got all his years of experience, and I think excels at the position because of that, I think free safety would have been kind of perfect for him, because I think he reacts well enough that step he might lose in age, he can make up with by making kind of the right decision. And we brought in Demario Davis from an experience point of view to kind of own the middle of the field and the kind of run fit side of things. And I don't know, I would have preferred to see one of the young guys, maybe a draft pick, play that more like nickel safety role, and for Minkah just to kind of own the back end of the defense and bring all his experience and his smarts to that sort of that layering of experience. Do you know what I mean? Sort of from the front to the middle to the back.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope that's just him speaking rather than any conversations he's had with Glenn.
We're going to get onto this in a minute. Fitzpatrick isn't the only safety on the team as well, so we will move on. But overall, how are we grading?
Oh, AZ. I think you keep wanting to give the plus, don't you? That goes to that extra level. I'm happy with a C.
Happy with a C. Okie dokie. Right, we're going to disagree with this next pick, I'm sure. So we drop into the 4th round. Show me a Jets fan that was expecting this pick and was happy with this pick. And I've got a bridge to sell you. Round 4, pick 110, drum roll, wide receiver out of Georgia, little pocket rocket. It's got 4.36 speed. Arian Smith. Everyone said before the draft he can't catch, and then we saw in training camp he was on that jugs machine nearly every single day, and he wasn't dropping anything at all. So what happened during the year? He finished the year with 7 catches for 52 yards. He had a PFF rating of 27.6 when targeted, which is just awful. You could have a punter or a kicker coming up with 27.6. So he had, to reiterate, he had 7 receptions, 52 yards, no touchdowns. He's also on special teams. He had 2 kick returns for 49 yards, which is probably a little bit more productive than he had playing wide receiver. Was this a wasted pick?
I don't think it's a Jets fan you find who expected this pick. I mean, ask the member of every front office and scouting department in every NFL team, and nobody would have made this pick. No one would have seen it coming for a start. I think this was so far off consensus, it was quite bonkers. Like you say, he had 3 more receiving yards than he had yards on returns. And he ran 245 routes in the season for 52 yards. I think that's like 0.3 yards per route run, which is just insane. And I know we didn't have the best quarterback situation in the world, but this is the one for me. And I know kind of you can sit there and say, oh, just let him develop. He's a 4th round pick and all the rest of it. And this isn't anything against Arian Smith. This is a Darren, Mougey and Aaron Glenn question for me. Mm-hmm. This kid did nothing wrong other than get drafted way ahead of where he should have been drafted. But yeah, this was bonkers. I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now. I don't know what future he has on this team. I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster next year, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you've just preempted one of the questions I was going to ask there. I think probably Arian Smith was, as you've pointed out, this is not Arian Smith's fault. He got drafted 4th overall. Let's make that absolutely clear. Where a player gets taken isn't their fault, and he was overdrafted. But it's a little bit of a concern for me. You see someone like AZ Thomas slip into the 3rd round, and yet it was absolutely a good move. I still don't know whether we should have done this move with AZ Thomas, but we did do it, and it was a clever move. This is the worry that I have. Did all of a sudden they think that they were the smartest guys in the room, and Arian Smith, who's a speedster, and there were a number of speedsters I remember looking at that year, and Arian Smith didn't come into that conversation simply because he just wasn't good enough. But there were other options there, and they didn't take them. So we did need the wide receiver. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have taken Arian Smith. We absolutely should have taken a wide receiver. And I know why they took Arian Smith, because he is that deep threat option with that 4.36 speed. He is going to stretch any defense. And when you've got someone like that is dangerous, that can take the lid off a defense, it opens things up underneath. So for whoever was going to be at tight end, in this case Taylor and Garrett as well, and obviously you've got Brees coming out of the backfield underneath or in flats or what have you, it opens things up. So I understand why, but when they did it, there were so many better options that should have gone at 4th overall, and they just didn't take those picks. So I don't blame Arian Smith. It's hard to know what we've still got in Arian Smith, and as you've pointed out, I don't think he's even going to make it. If he doesn't improve significantly and the jump that he needs to take is going to be substantial, I think there's a good chance that he winds up. I don't think they'll outright cut him, but I do think they'll stash him on the practice squad, and some offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, will take a look at him and go, you know what, I'm going to take a punt on him, and they'll turn him into the next Tyreek Hill or something, you know. But yeah, Arian Smith, I would grade. I've seen grades for Arian Smith at C, and I don't know how he's managed to get a C. I would grade him at D, and I even think that that's been kind as well. How would you grade Arian Smith?
Yeah, I know it's not his fault where he was drafted, but you kind of have to grade him against where he was drafted. Like a fourth round pick is, I mean, just my biggest problem with this draft was you. People say you shouldn't draft for need, but I think when you have such glaring holes that we had at wide receiver, I think you have to start looking at need because you've kind of left yourself in that position with the job that you've done in free agency. And if we look back to the third round, Jalen Noel was on the board when we took AZ Thomas. Jalen Noel in one of the kind of busiest receiving rooms in the league in Houston, ended the season with nearly 300 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, and nearly 350 yards almost in kick and punt returns. So if you grade Arian Smith kind of around behind on that with his 52 yards and not much else, it is kind of I kind of have to give it an F because he
Yeah,
just didn't perform to the level he was drafted. And I think this is almost like we're grading Mougey rather than the individual player, I think, because that's the best way to do it for me. I think this was a complete whiff.
yeah, it was, and going into this draft, obviously we've got all these draft picks. These we've got 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. There's a bit of me when I look at, again with the AZ thing, and then the very next pick, Arian Smith, trying to be a little bit too cute. I've got a little alarm bell going off in my head. On the flip side, I hope they look at this Arian Smith pick and have learned from it, because there is absolutely no rhyme or reason to why they took him, and it just didn't work out. As I say, we went through training camp, and there were flashes, and we saw in pre-season as well, where he did actually look like he was getting it. But I don't know. Has he got it between the ears? I just don't know. There's something not quite right there. I think he's going to have a Denzel Mims kind of experience with us. I don't think he's not going to get it. I don't think. I don't think he'll be here at the end of training camp. I think he'll either be on the practice squad or just cut. So we had 2 fourth-round picks, and 20 picks later, we drafted a safety out of Alabama, a guy that I was quite high on, Malachi Moore. We actually traded up to get him. Moore, he did become a physical force in the secondary. He recorded 95 tackles and appeared in all 17 games as pretty much a versatile safety nickel hybrid type of player. It's going to be interesting to see where he plays next year. But what did you think of Malachi Moore? He had 1 forced fumble and 3 PDs, and finished his PFF grade. It was reasonable considering he was a 4th-round pick, 58.9.
Yeah, I think he was really good. I mean, like you, I think he was a player I liked going into the draft. So the fact that we picked him up, and the fact that it was Olivia from the UK and Ireland Jets group
Yeah,
that got to pick him as well was really great, just from like an overall draft experience point of view. I liked him. I liked the way they used him as well. I thought he was really versatile in terms of where he played from in the box, kind of a little bit of a nickel role for him, some free safety snaps for him as well. He looked decent. Obviously, you know, he had rookie moments from a safety point of view, kind of learning on the job as they have to do. But he's someone who I'm really excited about, particularly with Fitzpatrick and whoever else they decide to bring in as a safety, because I don't think that's going to be the safety room kind of going into the year. I don't think it's going to be Cisco, Moore, and
we
Minka. I think they'll add someone else, but I
we've
think
got
he's a
Dane Belton
really,
we've got Dane Belton as well.
Dane Belton. He's a little bit of a depth player, I think, potentially.
Mm.
I'm not sure how you view Belton, but I don't think he's going to be like one of the bigger players on the team. He could be. I could be wrong. They could have brought him in to start. But I'm just not sure he's going to be the guy for us. So yeah, I think he showed enough versatility that I think he's going to have a starting role in this team, and a really good one as well.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to move. Originally, I thought Malachi Moore was going to be a free safety, an out and out free safety. But looking at how he played against the run, I could see him being more. And I think that him and Dane Belton, they may rotate in a little bit. His run support, he finished with 70.1 grading, so 101 total tackles in 14 games. So he's not afraid to get his shoulder down and make those tackles. And some of the tackles he made were quite spectacular when you're going against a back that you're giving away 20 and sometimes 30 pounds in, and they're coming at you. So he's not afraid. He's not afraid of hard work either. I've been looking at what he's getting up to in the off season, and he's been doing workouts and everything. He's been in Florham Park working out. So I'm quite impressed with Malachi Moore. I don't think we've seen the best of Malachi Moore yet. I think he is still a project, but like yourself, I think we are going to see him step into a different role this coming season. Sometimes like Glenn will have 3 safeties on, so I think there's going to be enough meat to feed everybody at this table. So I think he'll have a significant role in this year. And obviously, when we keep bringing him up, we've got Minka Fitzpatrick in this team, and learning with someone like that. These are the reasons why you get these veterans in the first place. Is because not only do they know the game backwards, but the character that they bring in and instill, and you've got these young guys that will look up to them, and they will go to them for advice and what to do. And it's just those little things when you're on the field. Don't stand there, stand there. Look over there, not over there. It's like those little nuances that just get picked up from player to player. So I think Malachi Moore is going to have an exceptional season this year. I really, really think he will. But at this moment in time, I would grade him probably B. When he's been on, he's done what he's had to do, and he's done it well. Didn't see, again, you've touched on this. The whole defense was flipping awful, so it's hard to really gauge. But I think a B. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I was going to say that too, as well, to be honest, because I think grading him against where he was drafted, probably my expectations of him were a little bit lower. So yeah, I think a B is fair, because I think he overperformed where he was drafted for me. Well, what really impressed me and what it gets me excited for year 2 is his run defense, because I think that sets the floor a little bit for a player. He can improve in coverage, but I think the run defense for me is where it starts with defenders. And that was really, really impressive. So yeah, I'm excited for year 2.
I don't think there's a lot of people that are doing mock drafts, and that for some reason we're taking a safety sometimes within the first 4 picks. I really can't see us taking a safety in the first 4 picks. Obviously, if someone like Downs or someone slipped, or Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or someone was still there when they shouldn't be, as we've seen with AZ Thomas, quite possibly. But again, I would call that like a luxury pick. We really don't need safety. I think we could afford to take safety in the other rounds, like lower down and developmental. There is a safety that I really like. I'll be careful how I say his name. I can't remember his first name. And Wankpa, he's some player, but I'll try and touch that on another time. So we've only got 2 more picks to go through here. They're both 5th round picks. One was significantly better than the other. So in the 5th round, we took from the University of Miami, Francis Mougey. Now, if you think you've heard that name before, yes, his brother is now going to be in this year's draft as well. So I think we've got the wrong Maui Noah, because I think the other one is the lineman is significantly better. That said, Kiko, as he's called, I don't think he did too bad. He's a 5th round pick. Are 5th round picks meant to be starters? Not necessarily. Should they be viable backups? Pretty much. They should be on special teams and things. But I think he acquitted himself fairly well. He's a downhill thumper, isn't he? So again, you've got the likes of Davis that has now come in, Demario Davis. And I could see Cisco being taken under his wing and being shown the ropes of what to do. And obviously, if we draft someone like Reese or like Styles, someone like that, it's gonna increase their game as well. So it drags your game up, doesn't it, when you're playing with better players? But what did you think of the Maui Noah pick and how his season went?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think much of the pick, to be honest with you, when we made it, just because I hadn't really gotten that deep with some of these draft classes last year. Sorry, some of these positions last year. He had his moments. I mean, the Denver game, which you probably remember better than I do since you were there. He looked really, really, really good. I mean, his run defense was where he had those flashes. But quite often, especially in coverage. I mean, his coverage was brutal. I mean, it wasn't just him; it was the entire linebacker room as a whole. But you're right. I think Davis is potentially a good mentor for him because he fits that kind of mold of, like I say, he is going to be that third linebacker on rundowns who's there to fit a gap and do it really well, which is what Davis does incredibly well. I do just worry that he hasn't maybe got the twitch to be what the NFL needs linebackers to be at the moment. You know what I mean? He feels
Yeah,
like a bit
yeah,
of a throwback.
yeah. He's
He would
a
have been
north-south
really
runner, isn't
well in
he?
the 90s. Yeah, he would have been great in the 90s, not so
Yeah,
much now.
totally. Yeah, I absolutely agree. See, the difference between him and Demario Davis is they've probably got about the same kind of speed. But the thing is with Davis is he's got that IQ, that football IQ, and he's got like mountains of it. He's really 13 years in the league, and he's diagnosing plays before they've even happened. So like when you get in these running backs going out on sweeps, he's already in the backfield. He knows what's going on. He knows how to beat the right tackle. He knows how to beat the tight end. He's diagnosed it. He's made a spin move or a swim or a rip or whatever, and he's in the backfield and he's making the tackle for a loss. Whereas someone like Maui Noah, he's not going to do that because he hasn't got the experience. And when you're starting to play with a football brain, it takes a while to do it. And I think you're right. He is an absolute throwback from a linebacker that we played in the 70s, 80s. Loose teeth and God knows what have you. That kind of. But yeah, he is a big thumper, and as you say, he's in there to plug those gaps. That said, now we've got this big fronts that we're playing. We've got all these D linemen that are 300 pounds plus. That is the sort of front that you want someone like Cisco to have in front of him, because he will be able to plug those gaps. He'll get those blockers away from him. So we might see a different Maui Noah as well. So you never know. But grades wise, we're pressing on with time here. Grades wise, I was significantly impressed with him. We had injuries to the starting lineup on special teams, and he got asked to fill in there. He did really, really well. He posted, I think it was week 6, was 86.3 PFF grade in week 6. That's not too shabby. So when he's been asked to do things, he's come in, and for the best part, he's done it well. Again, as you've pointed out, it's so hard to grade these guys in that defense because it was just rancid on so many games. But I'm probably overgrading him. I like him as a player, and it's probably for the reasons that you've mentioned, because he is that old style linebacker. He's not an east-west linebacker. He's not a coverage linebacker, but he is north-south, and he does well what he does. And I'm going to grade him B. Am I too high on that?
Yeah, for me, a little bit too high on that one. And it's nice because this is the first time we're going to disagree a little bit. I think, like you
Boo.
say, he wasn't drafted to start in this team. He had to, and like you say, he did admirably for someone who was asked to start. He was a late round pick. Who That's where you're taking kind of linebackers who are going to have like the Sherwood kind of path, which is special teams, partial like role coming on when people need a break or when you have 3 linebackers on the field. So I think the fact that he was asked to start in his first year, he didn't do awfully. So I think I'd be willing. I would give him a C potentially, just because I think he did more than he was expected to. Perform probably about where a developmental player starting would perform. So yeah, I'd give him a C.
Yeah. Quick question. I've got two questions actually. I was to say we are running short of time here. Is Kiko going to be better next year? And how is he going to play? And Sherwood, do you think Sherwood, since we're talking backers, do you think with the arrival of Demario Davis, we're all assuming that Sherwood's going to end up as the weak side linebacker of the will? Do you think Sherwood is going to improve at that spot? Now he's not going to be green dot as well.
Oh, it can't get worse. I think, yeah, it's a better role for Sherwood to not be the guy back there. So yeah, I'm hoping that Sherwood gets better. I think Kiko probably plays what we expected him to last year. I think provided everyone stays healthy, he will play that kind of role player with some special teams and get some time to develop. I'm wondering, have you seen anything about his injury? Because he had a neck injury to end the year. I'm not sure how bad it was and if they were just resting him because they didn't need to bring him in, but I haven't been able to find any information about his rehab for that, because a neck injury for someone who plays his role can be scary.
Yeah, the last I read, and it was the back end of the season, was that he had a stinger, which is muscular. So if that's all it was, not too bad. But as you rightly said, the problem is, again, with his style of play, he is a head-on collision specialist, and that does take its toll on the neck. So if he's got neck problems, not good. You can't mess around with stuff like that. It's difficult to, once you've got a neck injury, it is so difficult to get it right as strong as it was before. So I hope that isn't that. As I say, all I got told it was a stinger type injury. So, but I haven't seen anything about his rehab. So that's something I need to look into. We've got one player left, which is going to take all of about 10 seconds to discuss. His teammate from Miami, Florida, pick 176 in the 5th round, Tyler Barron. He was picked as a developmental speed rusher, but Barron has struggled to find a consistent role. He's only appeared in 6 games before landing on injured reserve. He's not going to be back, is he?
I don't know. It all depends on what they do, to be honest with you. You're never going to have too many pass rushes, but like you say, this isn't going to take long. He only played 95 snaps. He played 30 odd on special teams. He didn't exactly, like you say, get himself a role in the team. So, but he got 4 pressures on only 95 snaps. He was always going to be a developmental guy. So I would be worried if I was him, if we bring in any more pass rushers in the draft and in like the later parts of like July, August free agency, because he could easily be forced out. And they traded up for him, didn't they, as well?
Yeah. Well, I think my actual instinct here is I think Darren Mougey is going to trade Tyler Barron to the Indianapolis Colts to join up with Sauce Gardner and Michael Clemens. And I think we're going to, and I think we're going to get our 3rd round pick back for him. So
that would be nasty work.
And the Colts are helping us. They're working on that 1st overall pick in the 2027 draft. Just touching on this just for a second. The Indianapolis Colts. We'll try and finish on ridiculous high here. The Indianapolis Colts, we've got there first, and when we've got the highest pick out of the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay, whichever that's going to be, of a sneaky suspicion it's probably going to be Dallas that's going to be higher. But based on the moves that they've made so far, just from where I'm sitting, the Colts look a bit of a mess. Do you think they're going to be a top 5 pick?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because they're one of those teams, and because they play in the South as well, it's anyone's game to get in the playoffs, just because that division's so bad. It could be they sort of strike me as a team, kind of like the Saints have been for years, that don't know when to give up and just gut the roster and rebuild. They're hanging on for dear life. if they do end up there, Ballard has to be fired. Finally, he has to go. But yeah, they've made some head scratches. I don't really know what the plan is there, other than hand Jonathan Taylor the ball over and over again and hope that Daniel Jones doesn't have to pass too much, apart from the odd long bomb to I can't remember the wide receiver's name now. It's probably because we can't sign him anymore because he's been signed. What was the wide receiver's name? Who was
Pittman.
the free agency? No, not Pittman. They traded him to the Steelers, which I missed.
Right. Oh God.
I can't remember his name. Anyway, it was that receiver I wanted to sign in free agency that got re-signed by the Colts, who just runs posts and go routes and scores touchdowns. But yeah, that's their plan. Hand it to Jonathan Taylor until he gets injured.
Let's hope that he has the same season that he had with the last season he had with the Giants. So that'll be good. But I've got a funny feeling the Colts are going to absolutely stink the joint out. Dallas, quickly on Dallas and Green Bay. Who's going to have the higher pick?
I hope it's Dallas, because I love to see them fail. I don't know what it is about them. I've got nothing against Dallas at all, I don't think, but I just have this prejudice against them as a team. I want them to do badly. So probably them. But then again, I have no faith in Jordan Love as a quarterback. So, but I'll say, if you wanted me to rank the three, I'd say Colts will be the highest, Dallas next, Green Bay the next one.
Yeah, it's got to be Dak Prescott's last rodeo for sure. He cannot go another year, surely. I think they'll want to be in the quarterback stakes next year, but obviously they're going to have to wait till the second round.
Yeah, possibly. Unless all the picks end up too high for us and we end up being the team that trades for Dak. But let's cross that horrendous bridge when we come to it.
Oh my goodness. Let's try and finish on a high. Andy,
I thought that was a high.
Right. So overall, how are you rating this 2025 draft season that we had? All these players overall. What's your grade on it?
Oh, it probably doesn't make any kind of coherent sense given the grades that we've given, but I'd give it either a B- or a C+.
Yeah,
just because I thought some of the picks were head scratches, but there's been enough good picks in there that I can't completely trash it. What's your?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, B-, C+. So unfortunately, we're not going to disagree on that one either. So it's all good. But yeah, overall, I think there's a lot to take away from last year's draft going into this year's draft, where we can say if it's BPA there and it fits the team, I think we're gonna take it. I don't want to see us taking luxury picks though, which is what I thought we did a couple of times, and don't overthink it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully this one all makes sense and we can all come away happy and start to repair as a fan base after a contentious, I'm assuming what will continue to be a contentious April.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a long time. We've touched on this at the beginning of this podcast. We've got a long time between now and the end of the draft. Social media is awash with arguments all over the place, so probably best to stay off it for a while. But anyway, thanks for coming on, Andy. It's been great chatting all things 2025, and we're looking forward to the next draft as well. But thanks for coming on, brother.
Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.